Hello my darlings, it's lovely to see you again. I have taken a 2-week break instead of doing my normal weekly video, and the reason for that was following on from my last video, which was about bullying, and I mentioned a young lad I was helping who was driven to a really serious eating disorder by his bullies, who then made a meme of him called Stickman, which he could see on his phone in hospital. Very, very sadly, the Friday after I made that video, he pulled out his drip for the very last time and passed away, slipped into a coma and passed away. So it's been a really, really horrible time, because in the 14 years to date that I've been doing this work, I've never once lost a child. And even though I never met him and we'd have wonderful Zoom calls, you know, to America, I feel that loss. I feel that light that's gone out. So I've been doing lots of bullying workshops and bullying awareness, things like this, because I want to grow flowers, lights from what has happened. So I thought today, I'm aiming this more at younger children this time. I've done a little bit of work with older people when they're anxious or stressed or frightened. And just to reassure you, the really good news is, and I've been doing lots of research on this, you can imagine what I'm like when I stop and get on one and I'm all fired up and driven. I'm just, well, I'm like a dog with 100 bones. So just to let you know, 80% of what we worry about never actually happens. 12% of what we worry about, we can't do anything about anyway. So worrying about it isn't really going to help. I know sometimes that's easier said than done. But 8%, that remaining 8%, what are we going to do? So I was thinking about this and I was thinking, right, what's in our control? What's out of our control? And I did on this little piece of paper here. I'm going to take it out of the wrapper actually, because otherwise it's a bit shiny. I did it on a piece of paper here, and you can access this if you go on Anna Kennedy online, because I'm the Wellbeing Charity Ambassador for Anna. You can see this video on there, but you can have pictures of what I'm demonstrating here as well, just to give you an idea of where to go from. So I drew around my hand, and that in itself was really, really mindful. And actually, because I've been worried about things, you know, I've just found out that my 2 older boys, I've got 4 children, as some of you might know, my 2 older boys who live in Cornwall have both tested positive for COVID, and they're really, really poorly. So I keep telling myself 80% of what I worry about isn't going to happen. 12% I can't do anything about. But the 8%, my God, am I going to put my all into that? So I know what it's like to have worries, and I know what it's like to feel helpless in those worries. So a 200-mile trip down to Cornwall is coming up, I think, this week, with care packages and lots of food, but I have to wave to them through the window and just leave it there and then drive all the way back. And that's going to be really hard, seeing them and not being able to hug them. Anyway, so back to my hand. So I drew around my hand, and I was thinking, everything inside my hand is in my control. I'm literally going to take my worries and my anxieties under my control. So I drew around my hand, and as you know from, I've mentioned this in a video before, your thumb is stress and tension, what we're scared of, what we're worrying about. The first finger is fear. It's also your back, but it's fear. The middle finger is anger and frustration about the things we can't do anything about very often. The fourth finger is about relationships, grief, you know, really important one, friendships. And the last finger is all about the heart and how good we feel we are, self-esteem. I always give that one an extra tweak because I'm not very good at that bit. So I drew around my hand with a pencil, as you've seen on that bit of paper, and that was really mindful. And it kind of, feeling the edges of my body, really grounded me and brought me back into my body, to make me think, you know, what can I control? What can I do? Well, I can control a 200 trip down to Cornwall. I can control that, making their favourite Italian food and stuff that my nonnas used to give me when I wasn't very well or when I was upset. So that's stuff I can do. The stuff I can't do, like touch them or hug them, that's out of my control. So I mustn't feel guilty about that. Just to see them through the window will be enough for me. So I've got the kids last week, my Zoom sessions and Rainbow Kids sessions, they drew around their hands, and in the middle they wrote all the things that they can control. So things like their behaviour, how they react to things. You know, what else did I write? Their own outlooks, their own thoughts, You know, even if it comes to being bullied, if you have 3 thoughts of gratitude every day, it makes your brain stronger. It helps the grey matter shrink around the emotional brain, the fear centre, the amygdala, and it grows it around the prefrontal cortex, which is that's our rational brain, our rational thinking. And it really helps with that positive outlook. So even if you're being bullied, you can think, well, thank goodness I'm not like them. You know, if you're really, really angry and can't think of something to be thankful for, think of that, you know. But the bullies themselves are out of your control. But things in your control are getting help, reporting them to the police, keeping a diary, keeping a record. So there are lots of things that are in your control. But other people's actions, other people's behaviours are not in your control. So I've been working recently with a girl who's been recovering from substance abuse and alcohol abuse, and other people exploited her when she was in that position. And I've said to her, but it was out of your control. That was their outlook, their thoughts, their choices. You didn't deserve that, because actually that was out of your control. And to have it visually written down on a hand, I find is really, really powerful. And it's literally taking your mental health in hand, giving you charge of it, because the waiting lists for help and therapies and everything else are just huge. They're huge at the moment. So there are things that we can do. So, you know, exams. I'm working with another little boy, really, really worried about his exams. There was a choice whether to put the kids through mock exams for GCSEs, and this little boy's school really wisely has decided that they're going to make the kids do this straight after COVID, and when they've missed most of the first academic year, and they've only had, well, they missed half a year of this year's, but they're still doing mocks, there we go. But they're calling them assessments, but still piling on the pressure in assemblies, which is really, really, really causing him an enormous amount of distress. So in his out of my control, he put exams, but in his control is, you know, he's taking vitamin D3 to keep his spirits up. You know, it's like natural sunshine, natural antidepressant. I've given him breathing exercises. Those are in his control. You know, so I've given him lots of things back in his control. He can't change the exams, but he can change his outlook, because they're going to happen anyway. So it's lots of things like that that you can use it for. With my really younger kids, and this is very special to me, this is a box. It's a musical box, and it belonged to my nonna. And I used to go to her little yellow house whenever I was upset or worried, and she only lived 1.5 miles from where I lived growing up. And I think that's probably a lot to do with why my favourite colour is yellow, and why I see it as ultimate joy and happiness when I see it around people or feel it from people, and feel it inside me when I'm happy. So I thought it would be a really good idea I made, because she always helped me. She always helped me. She was just my world in one little lady. And I miss her terribly. I'd love her to be around right now. Anyway, she's got this beautiful musical box. And I thought, because I used to go to her with my worries, I could make worry worms for all my little kiddies who come and see me. And they're blank. I've done them little faces, little smiley worms. And I'm dropping them on the floor. I've done them in all different colours. And my children, who are all going to be seeing me, or I'll be sharing it on my Facebook with Anna Kennedy, you know, just sharing it freely. What they're going to do is write on the worms what their worries are. And then this week, what we're going to do, once they've filled up their worry worms, we're going to put them in magic roses, because that's what we all call my nonna. It's Santa Maria. She used to sing it, and my great nonna used to sing it as well. There we go. I hope you can hear it. And this is the worry worm box. I've put a little label on it. And just as I used to go to her with all my worries, my rainbow kids, in a way I can feel her up there with her big spaghetti ladle, thinking, yes, give me your worries, I don't worry. I can hear her. And then what we're going to do is go in my garden. We're going to dig a big hole, or they can go in their gardens if we're doing it over a Zoom session. Or you can do it just by me sharing this with you. Go and put those worms in a hole in the ground and bury them. Otherwise, if you haven't got a musical box, put them in any sort of box, any sort of container. Call it your worry worm box. And just put the lid on it. Put the lid on it. Let it go. It's off. It's gone. That's what you're doing with the 8% that you are in control of. So have a lovely week, everyone. That's only a couple of ideas. I'm going to leave you now with my nonna singing you out. and or singing me out. And look after each other. Life is precious. Look after each other, make every moment count, because those are the things that are in your control. Have a beautiful week, everybody.